All right. How we doing tonight? I am Mike, and this is the Not Ghost Host podcast, and coming to you from Stormy Week, Burbank Shipwreck Studios, and it's really been a shipwreck this week. I'm telling you what, I almost didn't have time to do this show tonight, and I just kind of threw it together at the last minute. But it's been something that I wanted to talk to you about anyway. It is a little bit about one of the most haunted graveyards in Illinois. It's been around, as far as I know, since 1838, and the first inhabitant of Bachelor's Grove Cemetery was William B. Noble, and he was buried there. Newspaper article shows that that's when he was buried was in 1938. The first official burial in Bachelor's Grove happened in 1844 with Eliza Scott. So, there's a little bit of discrepancy as far as who was and who is the first inhabitants of said cemetery. Records weren't really the best thing back then, but it was pretty decent still, even in 1800. So that's what we're going to go with. And the cemetery is it's a small cemetery. It's only it's maybe an acre, maybe less than an acre. It's in Rubio Woods in Forest Preserve in the Cook County Forest Preserves. I don't really know what town it's in, but it's not too far from Midlothian, Illinois, and just north of Oak Forest, Illinois. So it kind of probably borders both of those towns. So if you're familiar with the area, that's, about 143rd and somewhere by like Ridgeland and between Ridgeland and Harlem. I've been to that cemetery several times doing an investigation, and there are several stories about most of the inhabitants throughout that area, and or through that cemetery, I should say, and it's nicely laid out. There's really not that many people, but the last person to be buried was in I want to say 1989, I believe, was the last burial, and I believe that was Robert E. Shields. And so that means from 1989 to 2089, you can still go. That cemetery has to be maintained according to law, 100 years. And if nobody gets buried in that 100 years, then it's free game. So I don't have any plans of being around in human form. I might be coming back in spirit form and visiting there, and maybe checking these people out. There's a story of a white lady there's actually a photograph you can look at online. The white lady at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, she's actually sitting on a bench that is out there, a concrete bench that is actually at the cemetery. And I believe she's actually looking either what they say her own headstone or family grave, what have you. There is a story of a disappearing house, And a lot of the rumors with the disappearing house was that it's never in the same place twice. And I seem to believe that because I have been to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery several times. It was a uh, place for all the teenagers to go, during high school. And I didn't graduate high school until 1986. So, that tells you my age. Uh, but anyway, so I was going through my high school years when, as soon as you're able to drive or, you had friends that were able to drive, man, you were going to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. It was a place to take the girls, to get them scared, make them run out of there. And if you did run out of there, it was a long walk or run. It's probably, I'm going to say, at least a half a mile, if not longer, from the street to the entrance of the cemetery. There is a shorter way, but there's no parking. So, yeah, that doesn't happen. And back in my day, you couldn't park in the forest preserve because they locked the forest preserves at dusk. And, you want to go to the cemetery at night. You don't want to go during the day or when it's light out. So we would sneak down one of the streets, and the neighbors at that time, they really didn't, as long as you didn't cause problems, they didn't call the police. So it was a little adventurous and, freaky and spooky. But there have been 3 or 4 times that I have come into view of that disappearing house. And it's an old farmhouse. That's what it looks like. I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think I couldn't have possibly seen the house because, one, it's a disappearing house, so it really doesn't exist. You look at it, you feel that it's solid, and then as you try to, if you have the courage to walk up to it, there's nothing to walk up to. You walk there, and the closest I've ever gotten to the home before it decided to leave my sight was probably 30, 40 feet away. And you look at it, and it's actually, it's not on a foundation. So you're trying to figure out, what the deal is with that. So it's almost as if it floats above the ground. So you're not going to be able to see it in the same place because it's floating. But it for all intents purposes, it really seems real because even the flickering of like a really low lit light bulb or the flickering of a candle is almost what it seems like through, you would think, the living room window. You can see the front door. It's got a big wraparound porch. I wouldn't say wraparound porch. I would say front porch that goes from one end to the other. And it's the farm style. So you've got a big picture window on one side. You've got a couple little windows on the other. And, it's very vivid. And I'm not the only one to have seen it. My friends that I've been, we both seen it. We all see it at the same time. There was only 1 or 2 of us that ever had the courage to try to walk up to it. And at the time, I was just getting into construction, so I wasn't worried of a house per se. And in fact, my first time seeing it, I thought it was just an old house in the forest preserve that they just never tore down, until I heard the folklore about it through a guy named Richard Crow. He was a folklorist, and he was very knowledgeable in that whole setup, and so I would listen to a lot of Richard Crowe's stories. Excuse me while I plug something in here. And I enjoyed listening to him about all subjects, but uh, usually the local area where I grew up is where he handled most of his folklore stories from. He had he did have had ghost tours and whatnot going on. So I actually have been on. I was on actually a ghost tour with him. Sadly, he passed away about 20 years ago. He passed away of pancreatic cancer, so that's a no good, huh? Um, but anyway, yeah, I heard all the stories from him, and there's plenty of other books that are written about Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. Uh, one of the leading ladies uh, that is a local uh, ghost hunter and ghost investigator and folklorist uh, is none other than Ursula Bielski. She wrote this book right here. Oops, got to get it over. Got to learn how to work this thing. All right, I'm going to block my face because Ursula is more important at the moment. And she, very good sized book. Yeah, and very well written. She's done several other books, but this is, I just brought this out because this is my topic tonight. So, with that, I will give you a little story that I have, when I had experience at Bachelor's Grove. I'm going to estimate in about 95 or 96, perhaps. Not much later than that. But I had just moved into the house that I'm in currently, and I had, at the time, I had a good job to where I was off quite a bit during the summer. I worked, excuse me, I worked trade shows, and so trade shows aren't really going during the summer because, that doesn't make sense for them to do that. So at this point in my life, I was, making decent money, and I was able to go ahead and buy some equipment. And I had already done that in 92. I already, when I did start really ghost hunting, I had already had good cameras and good voice recorders for that time. And so one day I decided, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to load up the truck and, go do a video. And I think it was because I had just got this really nice Panasonic video recorder, and really wanted to try it out so I would be able to, when I do a wedding or a play or something like that, I would be ready for it and know how to work the camera, because with this camera, it was a professional model, and I wasn't familiar with it. I was using the regular old, what everybody had was the big old cameras, and this was even bigger. Instead of getting smaller, they went bigger. But that's what happens when you go into the professional format. So I did that, and I wish I don't know what I did with the video to this day. I'm still looking for it. I know it's around here somewhere. The problem is it was shot in SVHS, which was higher quality than VHS, and so I don't know if I ever converted it to VHS. So that would be something I'm going to have to look into and see if I can't do that, because then I can put that on as a video sometime here on this podcast. And anyway, let me get back to my story before that squirrel just takes me all the way. I So I loaded up all the equipment. I went out there and I started investigating. And so I was recording. I had, in fact, I think I had two cameras with me and a still camera. So I had two video cameras, a still camera, a voice recorder, and I started doing the investigation. And I only asked a few questions. It was kind of difficult to. I didn't bring a second tripod, so I actually had to walk around with one of the cameras. Uh, it was spring, or not spring, but it was early spring. So the day that I went, there was still snow on the ground, and it was a nice day, nice and sunny, in fact. And I first walked into the cemetery, and the first thing I noticed was I had noticed over when I was walking past to get to the gate, one of the grave sites had been desecrated. Someone had dug up the grave and took the bones out. I'm sure if they were in a box at one time, that box was long gone. But there were bones scattered all over the place. In fact, someone had bent the gate down to get into the place because, I don't know. Most of the time, the place is never locked. So why somebody would have to bend the gate down or to do this type of destruction, just it pisses me off. Even back then, even being a teenager, there were other ways of getting into that cemetery when the gates were locked and without doing any damage. Because on the north end of the cemetery, it's bordered by a pond, and you can walk around the pond. It's not that big, and on the back side of that pond, it's an incline. So basically, where the fence is, it doesn't always touch the ground, and where it isn't touching the ground, people have dug out to climb up through. Well, yeah, I get it. You have to climb through and might get dirty a little bit, but if you don't want, first of all, if you don't want the police to know you're in there and get your ass chased out, you go in that way. And as long as you are respectful of the area and you're not yelling and screaming and everything else and doing stupid crap, you're not going to get caught. So, why anybody had to destroy anything and break all the headstones like they've done during the 60s and 70s, it was a hotspot for vandalism. It was, everyone wanted to go there and hang out, and there was also stories. I told you about the long road in, or the walk in. Well, at one time that was a drivable road, so you were able to take your car down there, park in front of the cemetery, and go in and visit your family or whatever you were there for. And it wasn't until later, later after the 70s, when they decided to chain it off and you couldn't no longer drive down there. But there were they called it Lover's Lane. Why anybody would call it Lover's Lane just before a cemetery, I have no idea. But anyway, there were stories of some kids getting murdered there. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Never did check into that. That wasn't my game, man. But what was my game was the cemetery itself and the inhabitants. I enjoyed it even back in high school. I wasn't one of those clowns that wanted to mess things up or, go there and just, scare each other. And I wasn't into that. I don't consider myself a geek even back then. I was more of a biker. So yeah, I didn't, I think I was a little bit more mature. I think the fear of my parents killing me was a real fear, because if I got in any type of trouble, man, it was not nice around the house. And if you wanted to reside with a roof over your head and, eat square meals, you had to behave yourself, and you respected your parents, and you respected the police. So, that wasn't something that, you didn't get away with very much, or you didn't try to. Some people were still vandals, or maybe, going out there getting drunk and screwing with the place, which doesn't make sense to me either. Why is it when you get drunk you do stupider shit? You should be chilling out, relaxing. If you're going to get drunk, then, fine, but why you got to tear stuff up? That makes no sense. But anyway, off my bandwagon on that. But anyway, yeah, you can go through the back and get into it. But this day I went, the gate was open, but someone had peeled the top part of the gate down to be able to climb in. Well, it had bent the wires so it wouldn't go back into position, and the Cook County Forest Preserve doesn't take care of anything. They charge you all this money for everything, licenses and parties and everything else, and they don't take care of shit. They are the worst. They are the most useless forest preserve in probably the country. And yeah, I used to work for Cook County, and it's Crook County. They take the money, but they don't do anything with it. But it's horrible. The only thing the police are good for is writing tickets if you stay past 9 o'clock at dusk, and maybe chasing a squirrel or two away. And you know what? I hate to say it, but that's really what it was about. And it hasn't gotten any better. No one takes care of that cemetery, and it's a shame because, how hard is it? It's less than an acre, probably an acre or less. And you have to cut the grass, and, the tombstones were all destroyed in the 60s and 70s because no one cared. And like I said, the last burial was in 1989. So it should have been taken care of. And that just rocked the last, from 75 years to now another 100 years. So, there's a lot of speculation as to why it was left alone, because they were scared. The pond is infamous for dumpster dumping. Gangster dumping, not dumpster dumping, gangster dumping. So the gangsters would off their target, and that target would be then tossed into the pond. There was countless bodies fished out of there. And I mean, that's legitimate. That's not just folklore. That's legitimate stories. You can go back into all the newspapers from the time and find out who was dumped there. So the 1920s and 1930s was taken up by the gangsters. So that was so far out of Al Capone's area that made sense to go there. So and obviously a pond in the middle of the woods with barely a road at the time was a good place to put somebody that you needed to get rid of, and so they did. But so there was all kinds of not only vandalism, but they would go and do satanic rituals there. And that was one of the things that the kids that I hung out with, their thrill was seeing if somebody was in there doing something. That was what their thrill was. It wasn't so much who was at the cemetery or what's in it, but it was who was there. Was there any devil worshippers? Are we going to see them? We going to get killed, this, that, and the other. So the whole walk in, you're talking about, who can possibly be at the cemetery. Then you find out nobody's there. Because at that time, that type of actions, It died out for a while. No pun intended. Wow, didn't even think of that. But so yeah, there was the old stories, but there wasn't the old people. So that died out, and the stories abounded about all different things at that time. The one person that was taking care of the cemetery actually had family members there. Clarence Fulton was the trustee, and he often described it as a very peaceful place and a place similar to a kids park, where you can actually probably picnic out there, which I know a lot of families do that still to this day at cemeteries. They'll pack up the family and bring a little picnic with them and enjoy their time visiting their loved ones that have passed. So that's not completely unusual. But back in the early days of the 1900s and late 1800s, early 1900s, it would be an all-day event for a lot of these families. Go out there, and like I said, they'd bring all kinds of food, and they would actually have a picnic. And I'm sure that the belief was that your loved one is there enjoying it with you. And I'm not one to say that it wasn't. We don't know what they're doing. They had there was a quarry that people can go swimming in, so they would make a day of it at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. They had before in the 60s and the 70s, they did have a few burials, so that kept it alive. And like I said, this this Clarence Fulton, I don't know why it's not even, oh yes it is. It is dead nuts on 11:30. Wow. Anyway, this Clarence Fulton was the last independent cemetery trustee. His whole family was original settlers to the area. And of course, a good portion of his family is buried there, and the Fulton grave is pretty large. I don't have my pictures with me, but I can show pictures of the Fulton cemetery gravesite, because I took several pictures of it from all different angles, because there was part of it that was desecrated and other parts that weren't. But he even had, I believe, I'm not 100%, I believe it was one of his daughters that passed early before he did. And she was buried there, and somebody had taken the headstone. And I don't know if it was actually ever replaced or not. But in 1976, the Clarence Fulton, either at that point he passed away or what have you, but the ownership went to the Cook County Forest Preserve, and it actually went to the Cook County Board. So yeah, Preckwinkle is in charge of it, which means nothing is getting done again still to this day. It says that it is cared for by the Forest Preserve District, which, if you go there, you let me know how good it's taken care of. And that just describes how, Cook County takes care of its inhabitants, if you will. The cemetery only holds 81 people. Or 81 plots, I should say, not 81 people, because some of them like the Fultons are an entire family, and then they have a couple additional headstones in the front of them. So the headstones, a lot of them are missing because of vandalism, being broken up. Why? I don't understand that. Why does somebody have to break stuff up? That I don't know. And I have video of all of this. I even have still shots of it. Those I know where they're at, but it's a little difficult to keep holding up pictures to the camera. I can do it maybe next time, or maybe another time when I talk about Bachelor Grove, because like I said, I've had uh, several experiences there. But the one I'm talking about today, like I said, was in 95 or 96. 1995, not 1895, you smart aleck. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to get on to that. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of history of it. The youngest, or one of the youngest people buried is a daughter of Marcy May, or is Marcy May Fulton, and she was the daughter of Bertland Fulton and Kathleen Voigt. So she was born and died in 1914. Her grave is really well known because people still, even to this day, bring toys and leave them for her, and blankets, and all kinds of little trinkets and stuff like that. You can always find it because somebody usually has brought a little angel, or something like that. So it's a pretty nice place to that at least one grave or so that you can still look at. And the other families that are there are not as well known as the Fultons, because one of the headstone for the Fultons is huge. Yeah, it's not on here, unfortunately. I thought it was, but no, I don't think that's it. But anyway, I can show you. I think I can find it, but I guess that's neither here nor there. But it is. It's still, even with all that damage, is still an interesting place to visit. So if you live in the area, take a chance and visit there. So I am going to take a real quick break. I will be right back. I boo-booed myself and I'm bleeding, so I have to fix myself. I'll be back in just a moment. Stand by. All right, so I'm back and got that all squared away and dried up. So anyway, let me continue about Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. One of the main stories that really was close to my era was the lady in white, the Madonna of Bachelor's Grove, they call her. There's several different things. She was captured on a photograph in 1979 by ghost investigators, and I believe the lady's name was Judy Huffsfeld, or Huffles, something like that. Anyway, it was taken in 1991, and what it is it's a, like I said earlier, it's a lady all in white. She's sitting on the bench in the cemetery holding an infant. We don't know what, type what the baby was, male or female, but it was she was holding it, just like a mother holds her baby, and I'm sure a lot of the belief is that it was probably the mother of Marcy, and when she passed, yeah, I'm sure it hurt very bad. But anyway, uh, that era when Marcy passed away was not good for children. Infant mortality was pretty rampant at that time, pretty high. So, anyway, it's really sad that, I mean, she's just sitting there looking off into space, not looking down at the baby or what have you, but it looks as if the lady is there. With the way that she's dressed, you can almost picture that era. I mean, you can see that, the type of dress that she's wearing would be considered dress in the 1914s, 1900s. It there's several stories behind it, but it's actually caught on film, and I believe it is in the Chicago Sun-Times, and I know for a fact it's in the National Examiner. It says that she's actually looking for someone. It's never specified who or what. But it is, like I said, connected to Marcy May is the most likely story that there is. So, you can understand a mother grieving for her child and being at the cemetery where the baby is laid to rest. And then, of course, when the mother passed, which, I'm sure was, I don't know when she actually was buried or what her date of death was, but I would believe if Marcy was an infant in 1914, we're looking probably in the 1950s or 60s that maybe the mother passed away, unless it was sooner because of a disease or something back then. I'm not exactly sure, and I don't want to just throw in falsehoods. So, if you go back into the Chicago Sun-Times for 1979 or look up, I wish I can say her last name right, but Judy Huff Fells, I don't know, something like that. And that was in 1991. So I was not too far, behind that. Like I said, 95, 96, somewhere in there is when I decided to go out. And I never saw that picture prior to going to the cemetery. The photos that I have, I've gone through them a few times since taking those. I really don't find anything, but that doesn't mean something's not there. What I'm going to do, because I believe I even have the negatives for those photographs, I'm going to take another look at them, and try to revisit it. And I am going to, if I find the video, I'm going to play it again. Now, when I was there was no one else in the cemetery whatsoever, and I have pictures to prove that no one else was there. Because, like I said, you can take a picture of the entire cemetery at one or two angles, And if you're standing at the far end in the center and your camera has a wide enough view, you will get the entire cemetery. Again, there's only 81 plots in the place. Probably to this day, I can probably still throw a ball, from one end to the other. I know I can do it across it. So it's really tiny. If you blink, you'll miss it. So there was no one there. The only EVP I believe I got, and that's why I want to watch it again and listen more carefully and put it through my equipment here, is it's on VHS. So one, it's a magnetic tape, if you know anything about that. Supposedly, it's easier for collecting evidence as far as EVPs goes, and that I don't know. When I play the episode where I used it for a podcast or a investigation in Indiana State Sanatorium, you get all the little nuances. It sounds crackly. It's not crystal clear like it's digital, but that's what makes it so special. Is growing up in my era, that was expected. That was top of the line. And these are mini cassettes, so even the full size cassettes, were good to hear things on, because energy is attracted by magnetism. Magnetism is energy. And since those are magnetic tapes, it doesn't take much to be heard on them. In fact, the hard part is keeping it away from a magnet, because if you put a magnet over the top of it, you actually erase the data that's on there, and you can use the tape again, but it's now you erased whatever you had. It completely erases it and starts from scratch again. I do know that if you do it too many times, it kind of ruins it. But they do have a long lifespan. So even when I was shooting weddings, if I ran out of something and I had a wedding that I've already did editing to or whatever, I would use the raw footage tapes and use them again, and the quality didn't diminish. That's what was surprising about it. But you didn't want to stop and start. You wanted to play continuously through, because otherwise there's a good chance that you might hit the fast forward button just a touch or something, and when you start your video back, you were a little bit ahead, or you ended up being so-and-so's wedding, then you're at Joe and Bob's wedding, then you're back at so-and-so's wedding. So it was really kind of you had to learn to work with those cameras, or cameras and sorry, I can't help it. Voice recorders. But anyway, in my video from the cemetery, the entire time that I am there, I am hearing a train whistle. And that train whistle just does not stop the entire time. And I think, if I remember correctly, I'm somewhere around 30 to 40 minutes of recording. So when I find that, I am definitely going to want to go through that and see what I can find. Like I said, I know I have that tape somewhere. So I will be looking forward that, and I forward that. I will be looking for that. And when I do, I would love to be able to play it for you. so you can hear it. The interesting thing about that is, yes, there is railroad tracks probably 2.5 miles away. Train whistles don't go a half hour long. What do they do? 2 or 3 blows, and then they're, past the intersection. That's all they have to do it to is a couple seconds before the intersection and at the intersection, pretty much. And if anybody's heard train whistles, they're, they're a little bit long. They're probably, a 10-15 second blast followed by another 10-15 second blast and so on. But they're not a half hour long. And the whole tape from start to finish is nothing but a train whistle in the background that I recorded. So I'm quite interested to finding out why or how, what caused that, or what's going on with that, this, that, and the other. So I am very, very interested to finding that. I didn't really experience too much other. I did, however, replace as many bones as I could find back into the open grave. Unfortunately, I did not see a skull. So I don't know if somebody actually stole that skull, or did maybe an animal came and got it. I don't know. But one of the bones, this is how ignorant people are. One of the bones was left on the gate that they destroyed getting into the place. So I'm sure it was just a bunch of ignorant teenagers, but even teenagers should know better. Someday you're going to be in a spot like that, and it's supposed to be your eternal rest. And when somebody disturbs that for absolutely no reason whatsoever, that's just, it's disgusting. And it bothers me so bad. And you can hear, I'm talking about it again, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying to have a positive show here. But it's just, I can't bring this home enough. It's, have respect. It doesn't take much to respect others and their property. And yes, it is their property. It's where they are now. It's not where they have been. It's where they are. Those people had a life just like yours, vibrant, fun. It had its moments, but they never did anything to you. Don't do anything to them. What could they possibly do? How could they hurt you? What could they have done to bother you so bad that you got to bother them? Leave them alone. Go in and visit. Go in and say hi. Have a picnic. But you don't have to destroy the place. Why don't you beautify it? Why don't you fix it up? Why don't you surprise somebody for a change? Instead of destroying something, why don't you help out and maybe cut the grass, if it's a small cemetery like that, or maybe help the caretaker. If the caretaker's there, hey, you know what? I know you're by yourself. Can I give you a hand? Can I cut the grass? Can I weed whack? Can I, pick up the garbage? Whatever. Little tokens like that, remember that you are going to be visiting one of those places, regardless if you're cremated or not. You're going to end up in some type of burial. It's not like you can be put out to sea like all the sailors, and no one's going to take you. Again with this, no one's going to take you in a helicopter and dump you out. That's not how this works. So, think about where you're going to be in whatever amount of time it is, and have respect for these people. This cemetery has got to be around for 100 more years, and it's not going to make it. It's because people are just too ignorant and too worried about themselves to take care of somebody else's grave. And sometimes, these people are getting forgotten. Well, it's people like myself that don't forget them. And other teams that go and visit them, yes, there are people looking for ghosts. Okay. But to be honest with you, I would rather deal with a ghost at the cemetery than most of these people out here today. These people today are just ignorant, they're stupid, and I don't care if I'm offending anybody. It's the truth. Go look in a mirror and tell me you enjoy what you're doing. If you're doing something nasty or that is frowned upon, and tell me you enjoy it. There are plenty of people out here that aren't doing anything nasty, and there are plenty of people that just aren't doing anything, and that's the problem. We all need to take accountability and, maybe help out some of these people. If you got spare time, do it. We've had a string of bad storms come through Illinois recently, and most of us are just now recovering from the storm damage, not having power for days on end. And, I was fortunate to only lose power for a short time. The first storm. The second time, I was without power from 8 p.m. till 2 o'clock in the afternoon the following day, which wasn't long. My two buddies that I do the other podcast with, Ed and Lou, they were both without power for the entire time from Wednesday all the way till Sunday. And both of them got their power back. One got the power back Sunday morning, and the other one got it Sunday evening. And today is only Monday. So that tells you what it was. But you know what? I'm not patting myself on the back, but my buddy called up and said, "Hey, do you have an extra generator or something like that?" And I said, "No, I don't. I don't have an extra, but you can use mine." So I loaded it up for him in my truck, brought it over to him, set it all up for him, ran cords with him. He's he's actually in the business of restoration from storms. So, his phone, and he's a salesman for the company, so his phone was ringing off the hook. He's one of those type of people that want to help, that want to make sure that you're taken care of. It's not about the money for him. He's on salary. He doesn't make a commission where he's at. He's strictly on salary, so he's not making any more or any less by taking calls. So while he was taking calls, his wife and I were, setting up, plugging things in, making sure everything was running fine for him. I hung out for a little while just to see if the power might have came back on in that short time that I was there. And, if I had to, I'd bring home the generator again. And in the meantime, after I left his house, I came back here. My neighbor has a generator that wasn't running. I took it apart. I fixed it up. I got it running that afternoon, brought it back, to her house. And then that evening, Thursday evening, a storm rolled through here and, really wreaked havoc on the place. We have so many homes without roofs on it. And it wasn't even a real tornado that came through here. It was just microbursts, but took roofs off and apartment buildings and everything. So there's a lot of homes and apartments that have been destroyed, and people living in hotels, I'm sure. And I did my best to try to help out who I could help out, and it didn't take anything out. I didn't take anything for it. I just, I felt that I was in a good place, and I went and helped. Unfortunately, myself ended up getting having the power out Thursday night, so I had to go pick up my generator so I can have power. But because I got that other generator going, I brought that one to him, and I can take the bigger one and feed both of the houses that needed the power. So that's what I did. I went and I traded the generators. So he would still not be without power because he had a sump pump. I don't have a basement, so I don't have to worry about that. But, I took care of that, and I didn't ask him for anything. I'm not in it for anything. I wanted to help. And most of us can go out there and help these people with these small cemeteries. Like I said, cutting the grass, weed whacking, cleaning up the graves, for people. It's somebody else's, family out there, but maybe you have family there that you can take care of. At least take care of your own families. I was at a big cemetery here in Chicago Ridge not too long ago. I went and visited my grandfather or my grandparents, and I'm looking for their headstones, and I was in the wrong section, but I came across this infant boy, uh, and was really, maybe the parents weren't around anymore to take care of the grave site, but somebody needed to take care of it, and I took my pocket knife out and I cut all the grass around it, made sure that the headstone was fully exposed, cleaned off. I went and got some water, splashed some water on it, cleaned the headstone off, and got all that overgrown grass out of the way. Now you can see the headstone again. Uh, you know, Maybe that person, I don't remember how old the person or the child was and when they got buried, but what did it take me 15 minutes out of my day, my busy day? I came home from work, went out there to the cemetery, cleaned up, and again, 15 minutes, took care of one headstone. There's hundreds of headstones in Chicagoland, and I did take care of a couple more, but they weren't as bad as that one. So I took care of all my families, made sure they were all clean and neat, and took everything, cut it back because my parents are gone, so they're not going to the cemeteries to take care of it. And that day I visited two different cemeteries and took care of both my grandparents and whoever was there. So it doesn't take much. And if you're already going to a cemetery, bring some stuff to help clean up. That's my suggestion for you. And with that, there's really not much more to my story other than that the train whistle was going on for a half hour. And the video and pictures really didn't come up with too much. And the problem, not the problem, but one of the things is I did go during the day, so it was a little bit harder to isolate sounds because the road really isn't that far from the cemetery. It's a small pond. Again, you can throw a rock across the whole thing in either direction, and just big enough to put a couple bodies in. But anyway, I am going to say goodnight and hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you leave any comments or what have you, I'd appreciate it. And let me know what you think of this episode or the previous episode. So this will be episode number 2 I'm putting out. And then pretty soon I'll be putting out a couple more from... we just did the Paranormal Chicago convention, me and the team. So I'll be putting out 2 podcasts from that and showing you around for the people that have video, showing you around the paranormal investigation show. And then I have a few others that I didn't realize about the video. It's not that I didn't realize. I forget that there's audio listeners, so those are going to be a little bit rough, but I still have to put them out there because I did take the time to record them. And with that, I am going to say goodnight and hope to see you soon, or speak to you soon, something like that. Anyway, I am Mike, and this is the Not Ghost Host Podcast. Like, share, and destroy. Like, share, and what's the other word everyone says? Like, share, and enjoy. That's all I can say. All right. Thank you very have a very good night, and buenos noches.